With Greg Stallworth, a veteran author and playwright from Cincinnati, Ohio. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Ryan.
Definitely. You tell me a little bit about growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes. Well, I currently live in Temple, Georgia. Now, I just recently moved, but my travels in Cincinnati, where I was born, was really tremendous because that's where I started off as a amateur. I call it amateur playwright. I wrote over 26 stage plays, and I had a deep love for uh, plays. It goes all the way back to elementary school. I
Wow.
always loved the visual and the connection with the audience. So it was one play after another, and then I went to a larger facility writing different genres, and it's been a great experience that led me up to where I am now with being a published author.
That's incredible. I'm an actor, so I have a great love for theater. I love stage plays. What were some of the early writers that influenced you early on?
Yes. Oh, that's been many of them that we know that has influenced us to and inspired us to get where we are. And it's something that, regardless of your age, you can still continue to create and really aspire audiences across the country in various ways.
For sure. Being in Cincinnati, was it a big theater community? Is that how you got involved with writing stage plays? Were you involved with the theater and drama club? What got you into writing stage plays?
Well, I tell you, I used to have friends who did, community theater. That was the big thing in Cincinnati, community theater. We had like Playhouse in the Park and stuff like that, but community theater was a big thing. And if you can connect with quite a few of your local community theaters, it worked out well. So what I did was able to build relationships up. And with that, I was able to do regular stage play performances and develop a identity, Ryan, to a point where people got to know you, and when they got to know your name, they say, "Hey, I'm going there because of their previous history of seeing some of my productions."
Your most prominent play was the 2015 National Black Playwrights Festival play, A Mother's Plea. Can you talk a little bit about that play and what it meant being accepted into the National Black Playwrights Festival?
Yes, that was one that I really thought was the soaring point for me. A Mother's Plea was something that I love to write because everybody can identify with, when they talk about a mother's plea, the impact of a mother of a child will go to bat for you at any place. And when I wrote A Mother's Plea and submitted it to the National Black Theater Festival, uh, it was received extremely well, it, to the point where I was on my way back home, and one of the directors called me and asked, Craig, I love the play. Will you allow me to convert it into a film short? And from there, we worked out agreement, arrangements, and as a result, A Mother's Plea went from stage to film and was well received. In fact, it's on with that Prime Video as we speak. So, it's just when you get into like the National Black Theater Festival where people come from all over the country, Ryan, it just meant a lot to me from a local boy that was able to go there and be received and to be able to turn your story into a larger presence of a film.
That's incredible. You talk about, writing 25 plays, and I think of Malcolm Gladwell. He has this idea the 10,000 hour rule,
Yes.
before you become a master of your craft. How long was it before you felt like you knew what you were doing as a playwright?
Probably took me about 9, 10 years. You go through the ups and downs, the struggles, the late night writing, and look up and say, oh, in about 3 hours, I got to go to work. And it was a good experience, but as I look back on the struggles, then I look at where it took me. Ryan, it was a blessing, really. I really know that the sacrifice I made was worth it, and I'm seeing that even more right now.
And you've penned several books. Your most recent book, Guilty Is Not Enough?
Yes, the most recent is Guilty Is Not Enough, Life of a Whistleblower. That's my most recent because I want to tell the story. A lot of people hear the word whistleblower, but they don't understand that when you become a whistleblower, there are some pearls to that. The fact that when you decide to speak out against the establishment, if it's a corporate, in this particular story, a major corporation. And this Black executive who was very successful, who took his corporation of Fortune 500 status, um, received several voice messages on his phone, off his phone, uh, identifying illegal corruption in the workplace. And at that point, he got to make a decision. But and I want to tell you this too. The reason why I named it Guilty Is Not Enough, as we know, guilty in the court of law is the highest verdict that you can get. And people say, Greg, why did you name it Guilty Is Not Enough? And what I tell people is that being a victim of a crime or being a whistleblower when you constantly facing death threats because you shared something with the authorities, even after that person is sentenced and they sentence over, you go through the emotional pains and struggles. And even like with Watergate, to the individual where he died, suffering. So there's no sentence limit to what a person can go through, paranoia, phobias, and everything else when it comes down, Ryan, to being a whistleblower. And thank you for the Barack Obamas who reenacted the Whistleblower Act that which was established in 1989 originally. But before that time, if you went and said anything, you were on your own for the most part, and companies could be able to terminate your employment at the time too. So it's a good story, and it really brings to light of love and understanding and purpose.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I guess like you received an official selection as a feature film script in 2024 by the Chicago Scripts Award.
Yeah, that was interesting. Remember, I was a playwright for several decades, and one night sitting up, I said, you know what? I'm gonna try my hand at film script writing. And so I said, who can I call? And the young lady who wrote the script for A Mother's Plea, I talked to her and I said, I need help. I told her what I wanted to do, and she showed me the template to what she did, and I was able to reconstruct it and write the story Guilty Is Not Enough as a film script, feature film script. Never, Ryan, never ever even thought in my best mind that I would not only write it, but it would receive some notification. So in January, they notified me and said I was the official selection. And what that meant is that I went on my story went on a national database where producers and everyone could see. And I got a call, email, and then a call from Amazon Video. They wanted to kind of produce it, but things were going too fast, too soon, and I was kind of in that paranoia. So I talked to a entertainment attorney, and he looked over and he said, "Greg, you can do what you want, but I think you should hold up on it." They were willing to negotiate a fee between 80,000 and 150,000, somewhere in between there, to establish, the rights to it. But he felt, "Greg, you might want to think about it because they can do so much to make much more, and what they are willing to give you could be probably more than what." So I held up toughly, but it's been a good travel, and as a result, getting the first class press release and getting it out there to the nation has been beautiful. In fact, uh, thank you for for being able to receive my press release and see what I'm doing, and I appreciate everything that you have done. And last evening, I was on Black Authors Matter TV for an interview. I was on in fact, it's on their Facebook page. I was on from 7:30 to 8. So I said, well, got through with that one. Let me talk to Ryan, and I just wanted to. I want to share my work.
Most definitely. Like I'm so happy to have you here. And you've also written some other books behind my storm. Can you talk a little bit about like that? That's an inspirational anthology of Black women who share their storms in life and how they were
Yeah.
able to overcome obstacles and barriers. What was the inspiration behind that book?
My mother. My mother. To be honest with you, my mother always wanted to share her storm. When I call it behind my storm, it's one's life there's some parts of their life they went through that was very difficult. And most people know, my grandmother used to say, boy, if you can make it through this storm, there's going to be sunshine. So what happened is I was able to reach out to 11 women of color, and they were openly, "Greg, I would love to." And they told their storm, their life situation, everything from cancer survivor, to ones who grew up in the most of poverty, um, many different life storms, and how they were able to overcome it, Brian. And it was very emotional and very tough. And I was the only male on there that told my storm because my daughter was born 2 months premature and spent 33 days in neonatal ICU. And I happened to be working at the nearby hospital, and it was something. But behind my storm is an anthology of 11 women of color that said, "Greg, we need to tell this to encourage those who may be going through something or may have someone that's going through something," and how, if we use prayer, patience, purpose, and perseverance. We use the P's to establish what you need to do when you're going through. And I encourage anyone that might have someone that's going through a storm. A lot of times people misconstrue storm. I'm talking about the weather. No, I'm talking about a life situation and how they can get through it. And these women were very successful in getting through their storms. So that's the reason why I titled it Behind My Storm.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. How have you gotten through like, some of the storms that you've experienced in life?
Oh, oh my goodness. Poverty, uh, racism. I went to all Black high school all the way through the 11th grade, and I'll never forget, we got called to the gymnasium, not auditorium. Our gymnasium was everything. And the superintendent came and said, I must tell you that we are merging. The state is closing us down because of financial and I guess credential reasons. And within past the summer, we had to merge with a predominantly white school. And I tell you, from that day, I still remember, uh, especially seniors crying because they couldn't graduate in the only school they knew. And the fact that I've never caught a school bus in my life until my senior year. Never. We walked to school, and weather wasn't an issue. I don't care how much snow was on the ground because we lived 4 or 5 blocks away. But Ryan, one of the things that it taught me is that about life. And I say this in the close on this one is that riding that school bus and getting up to the corner and seeing, because we during the summer there's a lot of rumors about that we was going to cause a riot and everything else. I've never seen so many law enforcement, state troopers, city police, county, like we were going to. The presence was nerve-wracking within itself. So it was it was very tough for us.
Definitely. It seems like there's a lot of similarities to, situations that are going on across the country now, like, with UCLA and other
Yes.
universities where there's protests. Do you have any thoughts about those situations?
Oh yeah. Again, here's when I hear about Columbia, uh, UCLA, even not too far from us at Emerson State College, it's get to a point where if someone don't gravitate this thing, it's going to get even more out of control. And Columbia council classes today, you know, uh, and they're confused on how they want to do it. And a friend of mine said, Greg, did they deal with this like they're dealing with it when there was riots going on all over the country? And I said, absolutely not, because they are confused on, you got students and instigators coming together, and it's a tough one to deal with from an administrative end and a political end right now.
Definitely. What would be your advice to, young writers, people who are just starting out writing?
I would say, Ryan, you know, look at those ahead of you, seek advice. There are so many writers that I had to talk to, and humble yourself. If you think you're going to go in there and write a manuscript and be successful the first time, probably not. And learn. That's the reason why you got libraries, resources. That's the reason why you got the Ryans of the world. That's the reason why you got other people that's out here that can inspire you. In fact, in my book, Guilty is Not Enough, I'll hold it up. You'll see a name. I don't know if you can see it. Her name is Tracy Black. See it underneath my.
Yes, I do.
And the interesting thing, that's my niece. And when I was writing it, I said, you know what? I want to bring somebody else up. And as a result, I made her my co-author. Even though I wrote the book primarily, I made her the co-author to inspire her that, you know what? She always had a writing talent, but didn't know how to start. And what better way is to give her some hurdle help? So, to answer your question, have a compassion for the arts. Learn, um, do your homework, so to speak. So,
Definitely. So I see like you're going to be at some book fairs and symposiums. Do you know like what upcoming events you'll be at?
well, yes, one that I just signed on to, I'm going to be at the National Black Book Festival in Houston, Texas. I'll be there. And they want me to speak there too. So I'll probably do a little speaking and also promote my books. Um, I will be at the National Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, roughly in August. Uh, Labor Day weekend, I'll be at the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. So I'm hitting the road a little bit. You know, I went last year. I went to the Portland Film Festival. In fact, A Dream Monday Night, we did a reading there in Portland, Oregon. I flew there and was well received. And it's been a journey, but again, it's an opportunity to get your message out there.
No, in the Black community, Black youths have some of the lowest literacy rate. What could be done to, inspire like, youths to read?
Well, that's a good question. When I was in Cincinnati, I would be invited to junior high and high schools to share my story, because I got a pretty large story about coming up. I put a little humor in it too, which is true. I told them about my fifth grade teacher who we came back from the summer, and you know how they used to say, get a page out to write about what you did during the summer? Mm-hmm. Well, my summer was so involved, I wrote 16 pages, even though the teacher told us clearly, only write one page. And she gave me an F, and she called home. I'd rather take the F than call home, because my mother believed in all the teachers. So when I got home, she told me, you can go on into your room. And that was my punishment. But what happened is that going to the schools, I tell the students, if you become a writer, even on the baseline, it helps you with your literacy in all aspects of school. It helps with English, math, science, because you're learning so many different subject matters in your writing. So, and I told them, and I share it to teachers, inspire your students. And I always tell them this: when you do an assignment and you do well, celebrate it. I said, it used to be a time when they said, don't be selfish. That's the time of being selfish. Celebrate your success. And what I found out is that most students I had talked to who went into writing is doing extremely well. In fact, one is in New York now, Akil. His name is Akil Campbell. He's in New York, and he said, hey, coach, I'm still acting, still writing. So it makes you feel good. It let me know that there's a connection between writing, the authorship, and literacy in its whole. And they usually do very well academically.
Does it matter where you are geographically as a writer? Being from Cincinnati, or, like, let's say you're from a place that's more rural, or, a city, does that influence, like, you as a writer?
Yes, it does. I tell you, when I was in Cincinnati, I had all kinds of locations to go to. I had different symposiums to participate in, and it does. The only thing about when you're in kind of rural or small cities, it allows you to really not be distracted from a lot of other things and really focus on assignments that you want to do. So it has a give and take. But Ryan, I tell you, it's just a beautiful thing to watch young people succeed. And you're right. One of the things that I do that I would like to do more of is to reach out to schools and go express to teachers and educators that use the arts as an opportunity to help these children excel academically.
Yeah, like the arts is very important. I've always enjoyed the arts. I have a great love for playwrights, and I like the first time I read a play, I was just really like, drawn to it. And like, I think like there's not enough emphasis on that in schools where like, they kind of like, a lot of like schools are getting rid of drama programs and theater programs, but
Yeah.
like, why do you feel like the arts, like, is kind of underappreciated in education?
You know what? I think what didn't happen is I look at so many board educations when they call themselves making quote unquote budget decisions. And it seems like because they're not involved in it, that seems like one of the areas that they uh, take off the budget sheet. And it's sad because these children, we live in a visual world now, in a world where these children need to not only produce it in writing, but they need to visualize in their mind what they're writing. And that helps in every area of their academics. And it's sad. And what I really want to do, I really want my next writing to be exactly what that is, where showing a story where our young people can succeed in the arts, whatever that level of arts is, and it's an achievement. I'm living it even as an elder, but I started off young, and again, I always this lady is no longer with us, but I never forget when I was walking out of the classroom after writing them 16 pages, when I suppose I only been writing one page, she made a snide remark, say, Gregory, next time, why don't you write a book? Well, here I am, so
Most definitely written several books. Is it three or four? Three books written now.
six now. I wrote a romantic mystery. It's called Behind My Vows, Love, Lies, and Deceit. And it really speaks about the perils of infidelity. Uh, I wrote a book called Crosswire, which is really an extension of this book, but Behind My Storm. And then I wrote a book called Double Deceive. Double Deceive is, I don't know where I get into these social satires about infidelity, but it drew interest. And I guess my closing on that is uh, I have worked with probably about 80 different young people on stage, and they love it. They loved it because they were able to make a presence in front of their family and friends, school teachers, and whoever came to the stage performances. And then they had to learn how to remember their lines.
Right.
That's why I tell the educators, look, don't take something away from individuals who go home and not only rehearse at in our training, but also they go home and rehearse them lines, which helps them remember things academically in other subjects at the school. And then there's a certain discipline because they knew that if you're going to be acting tomorrow, you're not going to go out getting in trouble prior to. So it's a discipline there, big time.
For sure. What are your thoughts about like, the rise of social media? Because now you have these platforms like TikTok where people are kind of doing similar work, but like, in shorter form.
Yeah, I'm kind of half and half on that. I know the advancement there, but I'm an old schooler. So I always say it's nothing like being on that stage, being in the prep room, ready for your particular character in the scene, uh, something live where you can hear the emotions, the laughter, the tears, everything that comes out when you are performing your character. So Ryan, it's something that I hate to see take away. I know TikTok is catching a tough time in this country because they're ready to ban it, you know, from the legislative standpoint. But you ask a lot of young people, they say it has its purpose at times.
Yeah, I really enjoy TikTok. I feel it's educational. I see a lot of
Yeah,
people, of color being able to make money off of it. Uh,
sure.
do you have any thoughts about like, them banning TikTok?
Yeah, I don't think they should ban it. I think what they need to do, if they really want to invest their time in, they need to get more educated on the effects of TikTok around the country, the different age levels. Children are learning that they're into it. And, just making sure it's controlled to the point where certain things can be seen that's regulated. That's what I mean. Because it's definitely a need for it, but you always got individuals who might kind of go beyond what the original need of TikTok was, and that's where some of the problems come up.
Where can people reach out to you? Like, find some of the books you've written, like Guilty is Not Enough.
Okay, well, my book "Guilty Is Not Enough: Life of a Whistleblower" is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, along with my other books. Well, most all my books are on Amazon, but there's a few on Barnes and Noble. Um, Also, they can go to my website. This particular book's website is guiltynotenough.com. Guiltynotenough.com. And again, I got a person who's doing my website design. They working on it. It hasn't been, it's about 20% complete. So they said they'll have it ready for me and complete within a week. So, you know, you got to have these ways of communication with people where you can be able to not only share about your story, but where they can get access to it and everything else.
Mentioning Barnes and Noble, that gave me that thought, like, what are your thoughts about like, just like the slow death of brick and mortar bookstores?
Woo! Yeah, that's been a tough one, um, especially in our communities. It's been really tough.
Yeah.
And in addition to banned books and everything, it's been a real tough one. Uh, what I'm finding out through some sources that places like Barnes and Noble really realize that the fate of the brick and mortar bookstores are fading out. They're not being utilized to the level it should be. So what they're doing is increasing in high intensity their marketing through their technology, where uh, I believe that in a matter of time, everything is just going to be so technical to the point where, uh, unfortunately, bookstores in the community is not going to be at a surplus anymore. Unfortunately,
Definitely. Greg Stallworth. One last question. What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as reaching out to our young people to inspire them to consider the arts, whether it be a writer, uh, playwright, author, something in the arts that can compel a message. Because there are so many messages you can construe by being in the arts, as you know. One of my best things is that when I wrote, I want to say this in closing, when I wrote Guilty Is Not Enough: Life of a Whistleblower, I never thought it would be received as it is. But then I thought about, well, beyond the corporate, there's a political situation where we're dealing with corruption. So it's kind of catching the wave as we are living now in a nation where corruption and everything else is going, and people want to know more. So that's where I'm at. And but my legacy, I want my legacy to be that I have inspired many people by my work to encourage them to consider the arts in some form.
uh, that's incredible, and I'm sure you will do that, Greg Stallworth. I really appreciate you for taking the time. Like you did mention book bans, and that's something like that has been like a big thing going on like in libraries across the country. What are your thoughts about book bans?
I tell you, one of the worst situations. I live in Georgia, and the state of Florida, through their governor, is aggressively forcing the book ban, and the education system is going downhill. And it's not only in the public school system, but also he's forcing it through the HBCUs. So I'm real concerned about it, and I will be a advocate against any form of that, and to make sure I join organizations to fight against some of the banning of the books, because some of the banning of the books they're doing is dealing with Black history and other ethnic situations that our young people need to know about.
Right, and like freedom of speech is really important. I think like it's a censorship.
Yes.
Like it doesn't why like what's in the book that they wouldn't want people to read, or like I can understand like some of these books like are important. They detail our history, especially being people of color. That seems like very egregious.
Yeah, I call it literary racism. In other words, what we'll do is we'll take these books off the market, and the less they know, the more they'll be less informed. And not only in the Black communities, but in other ethnicities are being affected by it. And unfortunately, it's something that this country really need to address immediately.
Yeah, and this year's an election year, 2024, we have the criminal Donald Trump running against,
Yes,
President Biden.
yes.
Is that something that concerns you?
Oh, it's very much, especially when you got an individual is telling you before the election what he's going to do. When you got someone say, if I get elected, my first day is going to be a dictator. I'm going to remove this and remove that. He's definitely for the banning of books. Uh, he don't want you to be educated, and unfortunately, a lot of these states are following suit. So it's going to take individuals like you, I, and many others to continue to advocate and fight. I call it fight the power.
Definitely. Greg Stallworth, I really appreciate talking to you. It was an amazing conversation. You're welcome back anytime.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I love your show, and I would definitely let others know to promote what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You have a great one.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.